Yeah, when
I don't think he knows what he wants.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. When I visited with him, it became very apparent he doesn't know.
Oh. He just
He wants to take a pound of flesh.
you bring it home with you. Oh, it's from Gage. Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't know what he wants. I'm really. I feel sorry for him, but I'm tired of messing with him.
And have
Somebody leave it alone. Yeah, but maybe he doesn't know him.
only well, you live long enough, it'll happen.
Yeah, but you better be taking your vitamins, dude. Better be taking your vitamins. Are you teaching it?
You know,
Okay. Yeah. What are we gonna do then?
We'll do in January. But we'll do like breakfast the next week and then we'll have Christmas basically. And then we'll come back again.
It's good. It's important. It's good for me.
All right. We should test. All right. Are we on? All right. Good evening. Thanks for being here in this illustrious chamber here at Harris Community School. This it feels like 10 o'clock already. So we should have like big thing where we could do a countdown when we hit 5:30. So 5:30, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Covington going to lead us in the pledge to the U.S. flag. And Executive Director, BEDC Executive Director Cynthia Hernandez is going to lead us in the Texas pledge. I saw her earlier. There she is. And then I will lead the invocation.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Bow with me in prayer. Dear Lord, we come before you and we thank you for the time that you've given us here to experience your creation, to experience you through others, to build relationships and to live in a community like Belton that works together. We just pray that your hand will continue to be on the citizens here, but also in Texas and the U.S. and all the world. We know that there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of heartache in this world. And we know that Christmas is a mixed bag a lot of times. So we pray for the first responders, for police and fire, as they have to deal with things that seem to escalate during the winter months and during Christmas. We pray for their safety. We pray for all those that are hurting right now. And just be with us this evening and guide our deliberations. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order at 5:32 on December 12th. We'll start with public comments. I don't have any listed. Oh, okay. I'm okay. I'm getting, yeah. All right. So the next item is to. Yep. The next item is he's giving me thanks, Shay, for being here. So the next item is receive child safety funds in the amount of $6,034.56 presented by Bell County. And you got here just in time.
Council, thank you for having me this evening. I'm out of breath. This is a best time of year for me. State law says that I have to collect all these fees and taxes throughout the year just because I'm the tax collector.
And we love you for it.
There's a tiny section of the transportation code that says, hey, I can give some of those fees back. And that's why I'm here tonight. So in fiscal year 2023, we collected $1.50 on registering 310,046 vehicles across the county. That number just keeps going up and up and up, and it's a lot of $1.50 fees. Well, it was $465,069 for the county. So the transportation code says that we have to give these fees back to the municipalities based on population, and we get that population number off the 2020 census. And I am going to read one little section of my little letter to you guys, and that will conclude my presentation. As outlined in the Transportation Code, Chapter 502.403, the county tax assessor collector has the authority, with the approval from the Commissioner's Court, to levy an additional $1.50 per vehicle registration, including those exempted by code. And those exempted by code are your farm tags and your disabled vet plates. They do not pay the $1.50. These funds are earmarked for existing crossing guard programs. In cases where a school district lacks a crossing guard program, the money may be allocated to initiatives promoting child safety, health, or nutrition, this support for child abuse prevention, intervention, as well as drug and alcohol abuse prevention. Alternatively, the funds can be directed towards programs enhancing public safety and security as per Article 102.014G of the Code of Criminal Procedure. The check for this year's allocation for Belton is $26,034.56. Notification of this allocation is also to the Belton Independent School District. And please note that number, since I've been in office, has steadily increased, and hopefully it keeps going up and up and up.
Well, it's one of our favorite years that we willingly someone gives the city some money, so it's great. So,
And you'll take it. I'll give it
and
to
Sam will take it, and then he's going to hand it off to Mike, who's going to then hand it off to BISD. So it's going to go quick. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. The next one is Sam's going to present recognizing the finance department for receipt of the certificate of achievement for excellence in finance reporting for fiscal year 2022.
Thank you very much, Mayor and council members. It gives me great pleasure to know Belton's Finance Department has done it again. We have received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement Award for financial reporting for the 37th consecutive year. This award for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022 is a recognition of distinction for the Belton City Council, for management and staff, that Belton meets national standards of excellence in reporting the city's finances. I'm very proud of Mike Rogers, Megan, and the entire finance team who are to be commended for this award. Y'all come up for a second if you would, please.
Yay.
Thank you. Congratulations. You want to say anything? Say anything?
I want to say in a minute.
And I believe Sam has another recognition or so that he'd like to present as well. Yep.
Thanks for allowing me to present another recognition, an important award that's not on the agenda specifically, but I'd like to present the 2023 Les Hallbauer Excellence in Public Service Award. Y'all were all at the Christmas party last Friday night, and unfortunately, Chris was not able to be there. Chris Brown is our awardee, and Chris and Kelly, why don't y'all come up for a second? And Les, why don't you join us as well? Really excited to present this award to Chris. Again, he was not able to be at the Christmas party where it was announced. The Les Hallbauer Excellence in Public Service Award goes to someone who has done an outstanding job during this past year. We're sorry that you cannot be with us on Friday. Kelly, I know your father passed away, and we're really sorry for this. you're with us today, and we want to just recognize you. Chris was hired in 2011 as an IT specialist, promoted to network analyst, and became IT director in March of 2016. So he's been with us a little over 12 years. Chris goes above and beyond to ensure the city of Belton technology is up to date and they're vigilant in cybersecurity. We have a lot of challenges in that area right now, and Chris trains us mightily to avoid opening that suspicious email. He shows great pride in working with the city of Belton on a daily basis, and he maintains great relationships with IT professionals in other area cities, one in particular, the river, services to our community. There's no task that given to Chris that's not completed accurately and timely and typically within or below budget. He is always looking for ways to save the city money as he implements IT system and technology changes. Chris has also been selected twice for the monthly customer service award and is willing to help in any way he can to provide technical support to council members and to staff. Does a great job in that. Amy was the one who nominated, and just one of the comments she made, she said, "We recently scheduled an early morning Teams meeting involving outside participants, and it required breakfast arrangements for the staff. Not only did Chris come in on his day off to get the meeting set up and ensure it went smoothly, but he volunteered to pick up breakfast for the group." For these and many other reasons, Chris is a very deserving recipient of the Les Hallbauer Award for Excellence in Public Service, and we are truly blessed to have him in serving Belton. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thanks for being here, Lance. Appreciate it very much.
Congrats, Chris. Thank you, Sam. All right. The next item is an action item confirming the city manager's appointment police chief in accordance with chapter 143.013A1 of the Texas Local Government Code and by Belton's Municipal Code of Ordinances, section 18-7B. I'm glad somebody could go find all those places and read that section.
Yeah, they're all there. Well, Mayor Lee encounters with the retirement announcement by Assistant City Manager, Police Chief Gene Ellis, it's important for us to name a new police chief for Belton. Succession planning and mentoring have been actively underway by Chief Ellis for over a decade, and Deputy Chief Berg is ready to be a police chief. Larry has held every position available in the police department, from dispatcher to deputy chief, and has spent his 27 years of City of Belton experience with successful completion of the FBI Academy and the Law Enforcement Management Institute. It is my honor and privilege to appoint Larry Berg as Belton's next police chief with the date of February 2nd, 2024, at which time we will conduct an inauguration ceremony. This appointment requires city confirmation, which I recommend.
Awesome. All right. Council.
Second.
We have a motion to second confirm Larry Berg as a police chief. I'll let some folks make some comments. The first one, are you going to be appointing your dog as a canine unit deputy? Because I think if just that big dog is enough to just stop crime in the city.
That dog's too friendly to stop any crime.
Any comments, guys? All right. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes.
Blue behind.
Get the blue behind.
That's right.
Thank you, Council. I just wanted to add that City Communications Director Paul Romer has prepared a press release on appointment, which includes Chief Berg's resume and related information that will be distributed after the council meeting. Thank you very much again.
Congratulations.
All right. Now we got 3 chiefs on one table.
Not enough Indians.
Not enough Indians. Yeah, we need a few. All right. The next section, items 6 through 14, are the consent agenda, which can be acted on by one motion. I'm just going to read those really quickly. Item 6 is consider or approving the minutes to the November 28th, 2023 council meeting. Item 7 is reappointing Marvin Bell to the Central Texas Housing Consortium Board of Directors. Item 8 is a resolution adopting the finances for the city of Belton. Item 9 is a resolution granting the city manager, director of finance, assistant director, and a designated deputy the authority to conduct financial transactions on behalf of the city of Belton. Item 10 is authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Casper, Patrick and Associates for design and bidding phase services for the North Belton water line project. Item 11 is authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for East 13th Avenue shared use project and any change orders associated with the contract not to exceed the amount authorized by the state law. I'm sorry, Amy, I did not read that whole contract number. It would have confused me and everyone else. Item 12 is authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Target Solutions for roof replacement at City Hall and the Public Works Department through the interlocal purchase agreement TIPS purchasing cooperative. Item 13, lucky 13, is a resolution approving the advanced funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the Central Ash Spring Street Bridge project. And finally, item 14 is considering approving a facade improvement grant for exterior renovations at 107 Water Street in the downtown Belton Commercial Historic District for Water Street Waffle Company. So items 6 through 14 could be approved in one motion unless someone wishes to move one for discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the items as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve items 6 through 14. Any other comments before? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Item 15 is on the agenda is an appeal from Bell County regarding the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation on windows for 200 North Main. Further discussion with the county, they're requesting for postpone this to a future meeting. So chair would entertain the motion to postpone.
Second.
A motion, a second, to postpone this to a future meeting. Any questions or comments about the postponement? Right, there being no question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Item 16, consider various policy issues in the development of a utility rate structure for fiscal year 24 to 28. Mr. Rogers, no pressure. We're going lightning speed here. Warp speed.
Saved you a lot of time.
John,
speed.
Miss John, we'll be done by
Might have a
6.
little voting during that reading that. So
Okay, well, here we go. I won't be long, Mayor and Council. I appreciate this. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. So as we have talked once already about our rate design study that's ongoing. When we had some discussions with our consultant as she's developing the study, a couple of additional policy considerations came into mind. And I want to get some opinion from you tonight on those items. So the first one is essentially, should the city charge itself for utility services? We have not been doing that. And so, but we can, as we're developing this study, would you like the consultant to consider the city charging itself for services? And what that does for us, if we do decide to do that, is it increases our transparency and accountability considerably. Think, for example, like Heritage Park. A large part of the expenditures of Heritage Park is irrigation. We don't capture that cost in the cost of operating Heritage Park currently because we're not charging ourselves for those services. So part of this policy consideration would be that now we'll be able to see our true cost of operations for things like parks and landscaping and stuff. What that additional revenue stream could do, again, remember, we're building this rate study. The additional revenue that then comes into the utility could potentially, not going to tell you the number yet because I don't know it. It could potentially reduce the rates for residential customers, some modestly, maybe is a better word. But we don't know the impact of that until we run this through the study. The downside of doing this if you will, is it would transfer that cost of operations from our ratepayers to our taxpayers. That's the tension, if you will, in this option is that we would then be moving that cost into, like, say, the general fund for all of this irrigation, as opposed to right now it's the utility fund that's essentially subsidizing that.
And Mike, one area that might be interesting to focus on, if those that revenue source could maybe be focused on low income, elderly, low water usage class.
Right.
That we discussed previously about trying to help some way.
Correct.
Maybe we could use those resources to focus on a specific group and offset some of that higher cost for them.
So just so you know what we're doing, that's certainly a great thing to think about. As she's developing the rate structure, as we're putting that in and that additional revenue, we can kind of, I don't know if during the study we can steer it a certain direction. But that certainly comes into play while we're maybe reducing the revenue from the lower income, type of folks.
Yeah.
Yes, this would help pay for that.
I think what would be good to that is collecting that was going to give you one number. Here's what the cost would be. And the second one is the option of peanut buttering it, like everybody gets a 2 discount. We basically create a pool of resources that can then be applied to certain rates. Like this rate may have more subsidy than this other rate. So if somebody's a big heavy user, they don't get the subsidy. But if somebody's a small, whatever, disabled vet, whatever, that they get up to 50%, right? Something, I think her giving us kind of that in to where we would have some options. I think that would
Exactly.
What John's saying.
It seems fair. It also, I'm sure you can get the number, but is it cost effective for us to go use the water rights we've got in the Leon River to irrigate with versus using treated water?
Also future discussions, I believe.
But I think this helps exit towards that discussion.
Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here in money. I looked at water consumption in fiscal 23. The city has 83 utility accounts, many more meters than that, but that 83 accounts, and 26 million gallons of water was consumed during fiscal 23 out of those 83 accounts. If you sort of put some rates to that, and this is really just general because I haven't gotten low enough to know what the cost would be, it would be about $100,000 to $150,000, say, that would be transferred from the general fund into the utility to pay for that service. So you're kind of talking about $100,000 to $150,000 to play with for those things that you're talking about. Do you want me to go? Do you want to kind of make a call on that one?
Yeah. So let's other comments about the charging city for utilities.
I think it's something we need to look into. I think it's a viable policy issue to look into.
Yeah.
Might encourage us to use less of certain items as well. If we track it from year to year.
Okay. We'll tell her to work that into the study.
Thank you.
Another item that came up during our discussion was charging a base fee for like our larger irrigation meters. You remember we used to charge a base fee for all of our irrigation meters. We took that away with this last study that we did. But then as we were kind of going through this, the thought was, these are irrigation meters that are, say, 2 inches and above. Those guys are the ones that are really pulling water in the summertime, really causing a high demand on our system. And then obviously we have to serve that larger capacity for anybody, not they use a drop of water. We have to build the lines to serve a 2 or 3 inch irrigation meter, even if they don't use any water. So we're having to pay for that. So the thought was maybe considering that, that would help us also pay for some of those larger meters when they need to be replaced. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking there. I don't have necessarily any dollars for you. What we're talking about are those 2 inches and above. So you can see the vast majority of our irrigation meters are 5/8 and 1 inch in size. 2 inches and above are going to be your schools, your Bell County, for instance, governments, large fields, things like that, including the city. Those are the ones that we would charge kind of a base fee for that. If we used, for example, our current charges based upon meter size, let's see. So a 2-inch meter would be a base fee of $59 and say 37 cents. And these are going to change. I'm just giving you an idea of what it is now. $59 for a base fee for a 2-inch meter, up to $300 for a 6-inch meter. And we have 6-inch irrigation meters in our town right now. So again, this is the idea behind this one is charging those who put the extra demand on the system, charging higher amounts for those guys. This is completely your call if you'd like to consider this. If not, we don't have to. I'm just the things that we discussed as far as for consideration.
You know, this is sort of like what electricity bill does in terms of peak charge, at least for commercial customers.
Delivery fee.
Would we want to look at something similar, or is this adequate? It's just looking at the size of the meter. It doesn't sound like it would be hard to do when she's got all of the data. What's the peak charge? I mean, is this 6-inch meter gazillion gallons in the month of August, or is it turned off to save? You know, I mean, I think it's worth asking that question. What would a peak charge look like, and where might it be appropriate?
That's a great idea. And remember, we also are considering, we're also considering building in a tiered rate structure would be based upon consumption. So these guys would be pushing out a lot of volume. And so they would, if we went with the tiered rate structure, they would be paying a higher rate for the consumption as well. So this, you know,
Tiered rate curbs usage more than the meter fee. We need to just generate revenue. The meter fee would help in that regard. But I think the tiered fee structure truly curbs usage.
I believe you're correct.
And I'm not inclined to do both. If we're gonna hit them with a tiered rate structure, I'm not inclined to also hit them with a meter size charge.
Yeah, and you're talking 80, roughly what, 80?
79.
Yeah, 80 meters. I said roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Roughly 80.
yeah. So, but, and that's, which is 10%. And so even if you doubled the cost for the meter cost is this versus the total cost. So I think I concur. I don't think you're just punishing people from having that. You're just going to create a lot more 1.5-inch meters. You just unintended consequences, I think.
The base charge wouldn't add up to what, you know, our current issue is how many million gallons a day we can get to the system, how many we can store at the water treatment plant. Those are where we have to curb peak usage, like they were saying, you know.
So looking at a peak charge would incentivize using less, I think. But I think if we're asking the question, I don't know that we want to mail it in.
Well, I think that it's a good question, because I don't think that's part of our rate study. Is the amount you use, whether you use it in February or August, is going to be charged the same, because it's tiered based on how much you use. We've not tiered it on when you use it. Where is that something? I think, Craig, is like, do we look at, say, August, when we have the biggest load, August and September, that you're paying 1.2 times your water rate, which is going to get super complicated. But it does, I don't know if that helps or hurts.
I think you need to consider what's excess or what's over the normal use for a 2-inch line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
who's got the faucet open running 24 hours a day irrigating. Well, they need to pay for that water at a higher rate instead of just using normal use through a 6-inch line.
Yeah, tiered rate does seem to be kind of getting us in that direction. I think we're going to have some system limitations billing different rates per month on various months. That's a lot of extra workload on staff.
The month you build or the month you use.
Yeah.
They cut off at the same time.
Yeah. So it sounds like let's just pause on this one for now.
Consensus on the tiered rate with the higher users paying more per gallon than the lower users.
Certainly. Let's see what the results of that are, and then we'll come back with that.
Yeah.
Perfect. This isn't necessarily a policy issue, but it was mentioned last time, and it's 100% accurate to say that our expenses that we're projecting is what determines our revenue requirement that we're kind of then coming back to. So what I wanted to share with you a little bit is what does that look like? So we don't get overly, dramatic, or if you will, with how we forecast these costs. I'm going to spend a little time with it, but what we generally do is for personnel costs and most of the operational type stuff, we just do kind of a flat increase for each account kind of going forward. What we have initially is probably a 3%, maybe across the board for all charges going for the next 5 years. That's not going to be what happens, but it kind of gives an idea of increasing costs each year as we go forward. Personnel is probably going to be more than 3%. Generally, it's a 4% or so. What we'll also do in the study is where we see in our personnel needs where we think we're going to need, I'm just using this as an example, another meter reader 3 years from now. We'll put that cost of a new person 3 years out to kind of capture that in the rate study. Where our big cost drivers are is really no surprise. That's all of these very large capital projects that we have, our future debt service that we think we're going to be paying, water and sewer particularly. So graphically, just kind of what I wanted to show you there is this is 2028, just based upon kind of the projections that we have right now. And on the water side, you can see that, let's see if I can do this, that this stuff over here, capital debt service purchases, you can see that that's more than 50% of our costs as we go into the out years. And on the sewer side, it's even greater than that. I mean, you're talking that much of for that debt service, sewer treatment. I mean, this is all of the plant expansion and all of that sort of stuff. Those are our big cost drivers in this rate study. We can debate all day, should operations grow by 2% or 6%? But it's these capital projects that we know are coming, is what we have in the study. It's based upon our 5-year CIP. So in our 5-year CIP currently, I have some debt funding going on. So it would be what's increasing, like this debt service there. It's based upon that is what I tell the consultant to do. So I'm not in this 5-year time frame, I'm not trying to cash fund anything that you don't know about. I'm not a debt fund anything that you don't know about. It's just based upon our 5-year CIP as we know it. But these are the big drivers in cost. I wanted to kind of be clear on what's pushing our revenue requirements up. It's not so much the personnel stuff as this other stuff. So really what's next? What are our next steps that we're talking about? So what we've been asking you to do on these policy considerations is not necessarily tell us, yes, go do that. We're going to adopt that. You've approved now, charging the city for itself. You haven't done that at this point. What you've actually done is given us some directions to take that information and now incorporate it into her rate study that she's designing. And then we're going to come back with, based upon the stuff that we've put in, the policy decisions, and then say, okay, now this is what it looks like if we do these things. And then we'll play the game probably with a smaller group of, okay, what does it look like if we do charge the city for itself? You know, what would the rates look like then versus if we do those things? So we'll come back with some recommendations on the policy formalization, if you will. You know, yes, we will start doing this forward. We'll also come back with some calculated and recommended rates for the next 5 years. But even then, you're not adopting those rates for 5 years. Each year in September, back to council, and we'll compare how we've done to the study, and then and then you'll adopt rates on an annual basis. Any questions
Okay.
for me?
Could you back it up one slide? I think that's gonna help us. Yeah, keep it on that one. I think questions about this.
Mike, we've discussed meter fees for years, and I don't know that we've made a huge adjustment to those. Does that impact this? Is that some revenue that could be applied towards water and sewer?
When you're saying meetings,
Cost of putting in a water meter for a developer?
yes, we do. We did increase those. I think we're charging now dollars plus cost, I believe, right? For that. And I think that money's going here into this operating fund. If not, it's going into our capital fund. Either way, we get that benefit to pay for those
Good.
costs.
So we may just
yes.
explore fees and what our neighbors are charging and make sure we're in line with those. I know that, I know that could be a pretty big revenue source, and most neighboring cities are charging an awful lot more.
Change out of meters, one that's been in the ground 10 years that we changed, that's all on us.
Correct.
Putting in a new meter is all on them,
They would pay that, yes, in the permitting process.
and we're planning for that accordingly.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions about the expense assumptions going into this?
We earmarked or moved 5 million over towards this. And we're planning on using that cash to reduce future expansion expense. Or are we considering debt for that? Are we
We'll
gonna buy
have to
down our
issue debt for some of it. We will accumulate enough cash, but to pay that entirely in cash. But yes, for the wastewater treatment plant expansion, we have $5 million of cash going into that to reduce that debt service from what we think is going to be from a 15 million down to 10 of our share of those costs. We still are, I think, haven't gotten the final cost yet, but that's coming along. I think we're still spring of 2024 still, maybe.
Depending on rates,
We're going up a bit.
keep our cash.
Yeah, so we're getting closer.
30-year debt.
We're getting closer.
So basically borrow from ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the question I have is on sewer and water. 50% of sewer and water is capital. We could say debt service, but debt service is paying for capital.
Correct.
And where a third is water. Is that because water scales better than sewer? Or is that because we're just a younger septic or sewer system?
I think it's, well, I don't know exactly the answer, but I think this is only known cost to date.
Yeah.
And it's the timing of that $15 million sewer treatment in this next 5 years that's really driving that.
Well, that's and that's where I'm kind of going with it is when we do costs, our capital debt service is lumpy. Personnel is more linear, right?
Correct.
You're going to have this big expense and then no expense for 3 years, and another big expense. So I think we should probably not just lump these as water or sewer. I think you should say the cost of operations for water, and then put capital separate, because you got to model that. Because if you start looking, John's done this before. If you go way up on your rates on sewer, and then find out at the end of it, the costs go way down because the timing of that thing. You know where I'm going I'd hate to see this cliff where we then have been overcharging for the last 3 or 4 years and it drops. So I think that with this, I think that assumption will drive sewer rates higher than what might be fair based on how long these plants expansion will last. That's just a gut feel, because they should look about the same.
I see what you're saying. But
well, it's like your car costs. If you're financing it for 5 years, but you keep it 6, you're going to be paying all this, and all of a sudden you're not going to have payment for the next couple.
Yeah.
So I think we need to at least models. I don't know.
There's obviously if we issue debt for these type of projects, we're getting a smoothing effect of that rate. And so when we cash fund things, we get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
You get that, okay, my expenses this year are $3 million higher than they will be next year. And then you get that roller coaster that you're talking about. You may have remembered when the consultant was here, when we talked about this, what happens then is instead of your rates going up and down and all that, what really happens is you'll over collect in some years and you'll under collect in the others. And that's where there's a difference between the calculated rate, like the rates that the numbers just mathematically, this is what it should be. And then what we're going to come back with a recommendation of kind of smoothing the effect of that peak and valley that you're talking about. For that very reason, we distinguish between water and sewer because of entirely distinct costs. Revenue streams and revenue and rates accordingly, which is why we kind of keep those separate for rate making purposes, to charge that different thing. But I understand what you're saying. We'll bring that back when we.
I fear we're going to get 2 or 3 things for our sewer rate payers. One is we used to supplement sewer rates significantly with water, which we're stopping. Also having a very large sewer expansion that's going to happen with it right on the tail of that. So I think that there's going to be a shock to the system there. And it looks like a lot of that has to do with the expansion. So that's mainly what I'm trying to drive towards, is that we really look at that capital and make sure that we don't, because there's a line. There's a line that people are going to be willing to absorb that, and or they may not.
The final number of what that cost is going to be is yet to be determined. It hasn't been bid yet. We've set the 5 aside to try to hold costs to the ratepayers down. There is a potential earmark out there for the sewer plant also that we don't know exactly the outcome of that. And so that final number and what we actually bond for, what we issue debt for is still to be determined. And so council will certainly be involved in that as we see what happens on the sewer side. On the water side, we have a pretty good idea, the 25 million that we're talking about for the plant expansion and maintenance costs. And then secondarily, the parallel line to town and other things that are out in the future, probably not within the 5 years, perhaps in the next study or next rate update. But they're all on the table, and they are kind of handled independently because one's for water and one's for sewer. But certainly both have impact to the system, and certainly you have a good point about shocks to the system that we need to be careful about.
Any other comments or questions on the expense assumptions for the rate study?
I'm not sure it pertains exactly to this, but when you talk about smoothing out the sewer and over and under,
that again.
I want it to flow. Now I lost where I'm at, but and I couple that with the, people talk about winter averaging for sewer. I don't think a lot of us really support that and want to say that, because you can game the system, you cannot game the system. Some people will, some people won't. We talked about 12-month rolling average smooth. So if you do something like that to smooth that out, and then you smooth out the over under, I think you can probably get pretty close to a pretty marginal where it's not a sticker shock.
Right.
So that was just that comment.
No, I agree.
So
that this is why I think the thought process as we're going forward is the consultant will calculate the rates, and we'll maybe convene a smaller group to then look at that calculation, let her go through how this works. It's 195 pages worth of spreadsheets like this thick, how they get there, and then what's viable and what's not. What's recommended, that kind of thing. What do we go forward with? Because you're right. As I think the term she uses is it's pie. It's politics is everything, and so you guys get the final say on that.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to us with those questions. Hopefully that helps everybody on the adoption of this. All right. There being no other business,
I just can I say one word?
Please.
Just wanted to Sam, Michelle, Amy, Matt, everybody involved with the city party. I thought it was really well done and heard lots of comments from city staff, and it's great to go to somewhere where you have a family atmosphere. People lot of folks working for the city of Belton. That speaks well for y'all and for the council as well. So thank you.
Yeah. And you know, we have sweet tooths when we use a big like grilled spatula for cake. That was epic. It was like, that's meme worthy. I thought about it, you know.
Texan.
All right, we stand adjourned 6:13.
There you go.
Yeah, get people in asking good questions.
Yeah, it's like, well, it's like, we find ourselves sometimes up here, it's like. Yeah. Oh. But let's see. Unless it's all six. Maybe ask about it. I put B Berman. You know what I mean?